Okay, here we go. Wrapping up with the ever so importantest of questions. Can this really hold off a cheese? Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun! In part 1 and 2, we basically got the chance to see this get played out, start to finish, in an oh-so-clean way. Now, I feel like I'm trying to sell something. And now we see the ever-so-amazing follow-up to this game with some cheese. Again, notice the pylon has 2 sides covered, so that way if a proxy gate happens, we have nice coverage, preventing the zealots from too easily killing off this pylon. We have these 2 open spaces easily accessible from probes. Oh, how wonderful! The cybernetics core has closed off yet a 3rd side to this pylon, so that way proxy can only hit this pylon from this north end. Although I still do prefer to have this 2nd pylon like there. Alright, we got our 2 very swift gas geysers going sentry first. Chrono boost still on probes. Oops. There we go, and I'm back. Alright, cool. So we instantly build 2nd sentry. When we start our 2nd sentry, we start our mothership core. When we start both of those, we also start a frickin' Nexus. What's going on with our probe production? We're actually halting at 24. At 24. Once we start our mothership core, we're done building probes for a while, man. Oh, we're done with that, man. Because promptly thereafter, we want to build ourselves a facility of roboticization. Still not building any probes because, boy howdy, do we need some extra gateways coming up. Here comes another one, I'm thinking. There it is. You know what? I'm thinking of going back to probe production. What about you? Nah, let's get out another sentry. Yeah, and then we go back to probe production. Great. So, the ever-inimitable State has scouted virtually nothing except for 2 gateways, and he knows that his probe died valiantly in the scouting battle. Great pylon placement. Photon overcharge will cover that pylon. I'm still a fan of it being here or here, kind of tucked away by the ramp. Stalker comes up. Good, we repel it. And then this comes out. Want to see something cool? This sucker finishes right around the time this sucker finishes. We got all our key pieces in place to deal with a rush. We also see Minigun is going for very fast blink. Ooh, a very well-known cheese. So State hasn't really seen anything yet, so he's like, okay, I'm going to go for hallucination. And then, uh-oh, it turns out that indeed he is doing a rush. This is why I say the mothership core. Very dangerous to put it here. Generally want to have it floating above here. Because this 99 HP mothership core almost didn't get her overcharge off. But she did. And when that happens, the force fields go down. As do the stalkers. Some nice sentry micromanagement. Leads to the death of some stalkers. All these warp gates finish. The immortals begin to come out. Now, if you're State, look at what State does. 3 stalkers at the back to deal with any potential air. At the front, immortals and sentries. Likely should be pulled back to here. Probably not at the top of the ramp. It's really easy for a single sentry to move up and to kill you off. But upon our hallucination scout arriving in the base, Blink is discovered. It's almost impossible for Blink to finish before 7:15. Almost impossible. The only way for it to really get out that early is if he just doesn't do this attack at the start. So if he does the start attack, you just go, oh my god, this guy's going for maybe delayed blink, but he can't be going for really fast blink. So that's a useful tool to know in our back pocket. So great. So in response, State just does the intuitive thing. Begins getting Immortal out. Still has just those initial 3 sentries. No more, not an additional sentry in sight. And, yeah, more warp-ins happening. So then Blink finishes up. Not a problem. It's real hard for Blink to do much if you have a couple of extra force fields. it is really hard for Blink to deal with. Because, I mean, if he blinks up and you force field, he's trapped. Because we have our 3 warp gates up, we can easily keep up with his Stalker production. There's the blink up. I mean, really bad shape. Very, very bad shape. And there you go. Let's take questions. Clap, 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 clap. Doom, doom, doom. Subscribers off. I'm ready for questions from the infamous Markio question grabber. Good strat. Let's go ahead and review it. We saw a cool early expand PvP opening. We have some vulnerabilities against very fast gateway pressure, but that is alleviated by a really nice scout timing probe that checks for proxies and heads to his base after our cybernetics core. This permits us to see if we should be building an early zealot, and if not, we go straight into sentry production. We got the chance to see that going 1 sentry and then following that up with a 2nd sentry mothership core and expand means that our expansion finishes right at the time that we would need it for a photon overcharge to defend. Yeah, sorry, I'm getting distracted. So we saw that. We saw that this robotics facility going down as well permits us to stay alive versus a variety of follow-up gateway attacks, including Dark Templar, Blink Stalkers. Zealot Archon will be a little bit difficult, but you should have enough units to be able to stay alive because you have 4 production structures, the Robo and the 3 gates. Versus Stargate, we just begin getting additional Stalkers, position them appropriately, and we're always trying to win by having more probes. The cool follow-up, though, is whenever we start to see, oh yeah, we're actually pretty safe. Boom, straight into Double Forge, begin teching up to Templar, and eventually Tempest to deal with those Colossus. That's really, really cool. Really, really cool. Grim Leaper asks about what to do with 4 Stalker aggression at the very beginning. Well, you're going to have 2 sentries with a total of 3 force fields. So this will allow you to force field thrice at your ramp. If he hits you at around 5, should be hitting you around 525 or so, 520, with some really fast early Stalker aggression. Then you can just force field at your ramp to make sure he doesn't break, and your Nexus will go down to like 60% health, and then you'll just win. Actually, to show that, let me see if we can do that with this game. So let us just know our timings. Stalker should pop out at 4:05 to 4:15. So, boink. That's actually a little bit late. Or, excuse me, 4:25 to 4:15. Oh, wait, so that's totally on time. Never mind. So, if it finishes at, let's actually go with the very early 4:15. Finishes at 4:15. Then when we build another Stalker, it should finish around 5. And how long does it take to get from the base? Well, if we start timing it there, it should be about 30 seconds. So yeah, it should hit around 5:30 to 5:40, so my estimate was actually a little bit off. So yeah, we'll have plenty of time. We just take a whole bunch of damage, and we note that our photon overcharge should be up and good to go at 6:20. So they'll arrive, they'll shoot at it for like 45 seconds, and then we'll just overcharge it. And win! Let's take some more questions. Galavi says, Day 9, what if the follow-up is a good handful of Void Rays that would overwhelm the Stalker defense? I don't know if it would, The fact is that we get the benefit of hallucination scouting, so we can easily see if he's taking an expand, if he's one-basing it. If he's one-basing it, we rebuild our mothership core, we make a lot of stalkers. He's never really going to beat us on ground because Void Rays are really expensive, and we have the economy of 2 bases still. Some lettuce. It's really good. So here's a question from King of Coffee. Day 9. Does the build we saw in part 1 and 2, should we transition to High Templar, Zealot Immortal, and then Tempest? Or could it be Zealot Immortal, Tempest, and then Templar? I definitely prefer to delay the Tempest as much as possible. Largely due to the fact that we want to be crushing on ground. Generally, if you're going Zealot, Archon, Immortal, you're winning most mid-game battles against Colossus. Because they'll have a handful of Zealots, a bloated Colossus count, and then your Immortals and Zealots will get right up to his Colossus and they'll die. Colossus are truly strong when you get to the maxed army situation where you have a lot of Colossus and a bunch of Zealot Archon to prevent anything from ever touching them. And that's when the Tempests really shine. I fear that if you got Tempest too early, then you wouldn't be able to win any of those mid-game pushes, and they would just roll over you when you have one Tempest. Foxy Mop asks, what timing attacks is the 3 century opening weak against? I think that DT into 4-gate Zealot Archon bust is real strong against this because you can't really make use of the force field because they just kind of charge through it. I'm really hungry. I tried to mouth and I failed. This sucks. This is gross. Gotta clean it up so that way I don't get ants. I think that going, I almost think that a straight transition. Oh, hey, what's up, Tristan? I almost think that a straight transition into like doing a really similar thing, like going Zealot Archon, can be really strong against this. Do I agree with that? I'm trying to think of timing attacks that'll be good. Because obviously, this play is not invincible. If your opponent sees it, then he can just apply a little pressure and Chrono Boost his probes at home and expand. His expand will be later, but his probe count should be about even. I mean, actually, if you rewatch game number 1, Minigun was doing fine. He was like ahead in probes, a little behind in tech. It looked totally even. But the question was, what are timing attacks that break it? It's really good. And then the only two that I think actually have potential, and even then probably not that much, would be to do pressure with Stalker and then go into DT to force him to build observers, and then into Zealot Archon 4-gate bust. The other one would be a 1-base 4-gate with a Colossus bust. Anything to knock down the force fields because the sentries are just so good. Last one. Oh, I do think the opening Phoenix is quite strong against it. But not that stupidly good either. Wrath of Gods does note the... Yes, I'll just end with this. If you go 4-gate Warp Prism, then there's really no good place to throw down a Photon Overcharge. But at the same time, I think you'd still probably be okay. Because if your opponent did go for 4-Gate Warp Prism, you would Photon Overcharge in the main, let your natural expansion die, and know that you are way ahead in the gas count. Because there's no way for him to really have a gas lead, and to go 4-Gate, and to go Robo. He'll have to cut his gas. See you tomorrow. We're going to be analyzing the WCS EU games. Tomorrow and Thursday, and on Friday I'll be playing Portal 2 Explosion. Without any further ado, thank you so much for watching. You're very awesome. I can't get enough of this song, so I'm just going to listen to it again. Hope you enjoy it. Cheers, guys.